I accidentally discovered in 1964 that there was a lot of vociferous activity to elect precinct chairman in an office I had never even heard of before. And reading some of the campaign literature which they put out, I noticed that they were promoting themselves as being active in the PTA, working in the Boy Scouts, teaching Sunday school. They gave their wife's name, their children's name, and said they'd just like to be precinct chairman. This aroused my curiosity, and when I got into it, I found that not only in my precinct, but in a number of others around White Rock Lake, after checking with my friends, the same thing occurred. These people were not representing the people who live in the precincts. They were representing special interests who got them to run, and they were all running on the same theme. Nowhere did they disclose their political ideology or tell the people what the office of precinct chairman was.
Well, now, you speak of special interests who were promoting these races. Who were they?
I refer specifically to Mike McCool, Oscar Mosey, and the liberal element. This was a pattern of just running out of patriotism without disclosing what they stood for. And I found out that most of the public was just like myself. They did not know what a precinct chairman was. They did not know anything about the Democratic Executive Committee. And they were just voting blind, just because of popularity or because of yard signs or because of letters. The person running did not disclose his ideology, and on the other hand, the conservatives made no fight.
Mr. Bock, the three-judge court opinion in the House redistricting case, written, some say, by Judge Irving Goldberg of Dallas, certainly in consultation with the other two justices, noted that in the black community, the DCRG simply hasn't granted them adequate representation. In fact, they went on to say that representation must be a matter of right, not a matter of grace. How do you answer this?
Well, I agree with the judge as far as he went. He just misrepresented us, I think. Several years ago, we realized that the county was being criticized considerably because representatives, most of them lived in North Dallas. We made a real intensive effort to find people to run out of the suburbs. We went to Richardson, we went to Irving, we went to Mesquite, we went to Garland. We went to a lot of organizations out there, and about the only man that we found that came out of the suburbs new was John Boyle. This last time, before the judges broke this up, we were having real good luck. We located people all over this county that came to us and wanted our endorsement and our help.
Well, now, you didn't find them in Garland and Mesquite in 1970. What happened?
That's correct. We just couldn't get anybody interested. One of the things that's wrong with it is that they just said they couldn't afford it. They didn't want to run.
Too expensive running county-wide?
No. Actually, it's a whole lot cheaper to run county-wide. There'll be more money spent this year, probably, is my guess, back in individual candidates than there ever was for county-wide slates. This business of how much money is spent on county-wide slates is greatly magnified, Lee. I know that.
Mr. Bock, this court opinion that I referred to earlier, the Judge Goldberg opinion, also said, and I quote here, that as recently as 1970, the DCRG was relying upon racial campaign tactics in white precincts to defeat candidates who had the overwhelming support of the black community. Is this true?
I'm glad you asked me that question because we've been attacked on that in a number of areas. This was a runoff campaign between John Boyle and Sam Coates on the one hand, and Berlin Brashear and Bill Stair on the other.
Let's see, Brashear versus Coates and Stair versus Boyle?
No, Brashear versus Boyle.
I'm sorry, and Stair versus Coates.
Now, you got to remember that John Boyle was recommended to us who entered the race early. Berlin Brashear, a black candidate, was only filed 2 days before the filing date. I found out later talking to him that he did this at the request of Dr. Conrad, who had been asked by Oscar Mosey to find a black candidate to help get out the black vote. We didn't know anything at all about Brashear and had nothing against him, and really felt like he was no problem in the runoff. John Boyle almost won by a majority vote in the primary. Our real target was Bill Stair. Bill had circulated a letter around town asking for donations to a church-affiliated organization and told the people this could be a tax write-off and the money would be used primarily for voter registration and primarily in minority districts. That's all right. And it may not be so bad if you call it a church-affiliated organization and tax-free. What we were really trying to do was to inform the public as to how Bill Stair was campaigning. He had solicited money on a tax-free basis to spend in the minority areas and campaigning out there in a different manner, which he was doing in the other parts of town. He tied himself to Bashir. We had nothing against Bashir and weren't afraid of him. Steer was our target.